Yo, yo, yo. This is Candy B Knittin. I'm Candy B, and I be knitting. Today I be just checking in with you. Nothing too big new projects, but I also want to be consistent with the channel. So I just want to make sure I'm checking in every once in a while, and also being totally transparent that it's not always like, oh, I got this new yarn, or oh, I've got this new pattern. It's just like I'm just working on the same stuff y'all been seeing me work on. So that said, this is some yarn I showed y'all on the bobbins last week. Or had I? No, they were still. No, I showed you guys they were center pull balls last time I showed them to you. And this is my fractal rainbow. And this is, I don't know what the fiber is. I assume it's wool, but this was some millins I got, and I spun them in Roy G. Biv order. And I did one ply, just Roy through Biv, and then I did another ply where it was Roy G. Biv 4 times, red, orange, yellow, blue, violet, blue, indigo, violet. And it was millins. It was a mystery fiber, so I'm not too. I knew it was going to be a learning experience because this is my first time intentionally trying to figure out the fractal. And the spinning actually came out really well. The thought I have here with this is if it's going to be for what I was going for in my imagination, and I suppose I could have spent more time mathing it out, maybe I should have done more repeats because Roy G. Biv is 7 colors. I have to check myself. Yes, that's 7 colors. And so I think the more colors I have, the more repeats I wanted to do because I wanted more of the interplay between each of the color repeats. So for instance, I started with red, of course, and so I have red on top of red, and then it goes into orange on orange, and then there's the yellow, and it starts to kind of catch up after a while. And that's fine because I can always start it further into the red and orange. And then once you get out of the red and the orange and the yellow, which those colors are analogous to one another, then you get the effect I was more so going with where you have the different colors kind of bouncing around. But then in the middle of the skein, when I got to the blue, the colors started to kind of catch up again. And it could have been just the way I spun it. I could have, been inconsistent with my tension and thickness and everything, but I ended up with this area where blue was on top of blue, and I feel like if I had done smaller and more shorter repeats of the same colors, I wouldn't have ended up with the 2 colors matching on top of each other, long story short. So depending on what I work on with this, I might end up cutting out that part just so that it's the whole thing is this barber pole effect, because that's usually the aesthetic one is going for when they do a fractal spin. But also if I'm working on say I'm working on the yoke of a sweater and I start with the red, the wider I get, this blue stripe might not be that big of a stripe if you can kind of math along with me about how knitting will grow and your rows get thinner and thinner as it grows. So just depending on the project, I might play around with where I stop and start using this yarn. But like I said, mostly informational purposes. I really like the way it turned out. And it was also kind of like a exercise in, I often talk about being too close to things. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like the green and red together, but I like the yellow and blue together. But once you zoom out, you're sitting there applying it and you're like, oh, I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like this. But the effect of the entire skein, I believe, is quite effective as far as all the different color plays you get in there. No one's going to be, well, some people might, but it's when I'm knitting with a barber poled yarn or a speckled yarn or any kind of like, anything that's not a solid, you're going to end up with chunks of areas that are, oh, I like the way those colors are together. I don't care so much for those colors together. And so a lesson in taking it a big picture, 1,000-foot view of the yarn rather than being like, well, if I cut this piece, I really was at certain points where I was like, oh, maybe I should rip this part out and start with this color. And it's just like, dude, you, the whole point of this project is to see the colors kind of playing together. And I don't know, what's your favorite combo? Are you a red and green together person? There's the yellow and blue gets together. There's a place where the indigo and purple are together and you really can't see it as well. But then you kind of know that there is a dimension of color there. So just like I said, just playing with color. The first 1,000 yards don't count, or not 1,000 yards, 1,000,000 yards probably don't count. So that's that. Then with the ply that had the short repeats, I had some left, and so I did a chain ply with just my leftovers, and I got a really cute mini skein that I'm actually really excited about. What is that? And so this is just, I had almost a whole repeat left. And so it came out in like a perfect rainbow. And so this will be, nice brim of a hat, the color work on some mittens or something, or even a nice gift for somebody. But I don't do very many like mini skein projects, but I like to collect them. And so it's nice to have my own mini skein that I can add to my collection, especially a rainbow colored one. It'd be nice. I wouldn't necessarily use this for socks because I don't know what the, the composition is. And so you would end up with felted socks potentially, or socks with holes in it. But definitely some kind of little effect on something. And so now I have this cute little rainbow mini skein that I've done a terrible job at hand winding, so I'm gonna have to figure that out later. The second thing that I showed y'all last week, this was still on the bobbin and it had been spun and plied but not finished. And this is my Navajo churo sample. And I took it off the bobbin, put it on my nitty knotty, tied it off, soaked it in hot water, and then gave it a good thwacking. And it's just a charcoal colored Navajo churo with the intention of, well, one, I had the yarn to spin, and it was not the yarn, the fiber to spin. And I actually have a whole braid of this gray color that this came out of, and then I have 2 white braids. And so I have quite a bit of this left, so I just wanted to kind of play with it and see how it spins up. As I said before, not too much crimp, a lot of guard hairs, not super next to skin soft. It has quite the prickle to it. But the intention behind this was to use this in this project I'm working on. And this is my stripe pullover it's called the Limelight Stripy Tee by Sarah Hatton. And I'll put it in the description box below of what this pattern is, but it's a striped t-shirt I've been working on in hand spun, and I have since finished the front. And this is what I was trying to describe a couple of episodes ago, where there's this edging on the v-neck, and then you just continue one little strip of the v-neck, so this becomes the back of the neck, and it has the same kind of rib texture. And so this kind of goes and joins in the back, and this is a nice little v-neck. This is the shoulder, so this is the front, and it's got this purple, pink, peach, orange Polworth mixed with some Gotland. And my intention behind spinning this Navajo churo is that I will more likely than not run out of this Gotland, and I wanted something that was comparable so that I could keep it mostly a hand spun project. Like I said, I finished the front. The front was quite tricky for me because it involved a lot of mirroring, left leaning and right leaning decreases, some shoulder shaping, some underarm shaping, casting on stitches for these sleeves. And then on top of all of that, doing the math and the striping with my hand spun. And I did kind of fudge up the math a little bit. So I have 4 colors in the front, you guys can see. And I have 1 color left over because I thought for some reason, I think I forgot to divide by 2 or multiply by 2 somewhere, because these are, you do 2 stripes of the colored yarn, or the contrast yarn rather. And so I realized as I was about to finish the front that I was not going to get to this color. So this color is going to be a leftover color that I'm going to try to incorporate into the sleeves and the bottom ribbing, because I really do want to use all of this yarn. I don't want to have like random leftovers, especially of hand spun yarn. And so that brings me to the back, and on the back, I've run out of the orange, and so I have like maybe 3 to 5 inches to go on the back, and then you shape for the shoulders. And I'm at the orange, and I literally have this much orange left, which is not going to finish the 2 more repeats I probably need of a contrasting color. So I need to debate whether I want random stripes of the green on the back, or I don't know, what would you call it? I call this greenish yellow. It's kind of like the color of a highlighter. Whether or not I want to just do random stripes of this on the back with it not being on the front, or just continue the whole thing in solid gray. This is the downside of using, random hand spun and trying to make it work in a project. I also have some pink yarn. I have some pink yarn that's commercial yarn that matches this pink, and that might be an option too. So that's why this project is kind of dragging a little bit. And then I have this much of the Gotlin left, by the way. And this is the point of the ball where the ball kind of starts to become a little bit magic, and you're just like, it doesn't seem like I have that much left, but it just kind of keeps going and going. But I do have this as backup, and I have more of this that I'm probably going to end up having to spin, because ribbing tends to take up, because you're doing it on smaller needle. Let me think. I'm doing it at a smaller gauge, but then I also, I need more of the fabric in order to get the length of ribbing I want, because ribbing tends to, when it stretches out, it shortens itself. And so I probably will end up spinning more of this. And so this is just kind of like, it's not something I can kind of just blow through. It takes a little bit of thinking. Yeah, I might end up just using that pink that I have, and then it won't all be hand spun, but that's fine. The other thing to think about that I didn't think about as I was using my hand spun, the reason I did the front first was I'm like, okay, I want a certain sequence of stripes. I'm using hand spun. I might run out. And so if I have to do any kind of malarkey, it'll all be on the back, and I'm not going to see the back. No one's really going to be able to see my front and back at the same time. So if it's not a perfect match, that's fine. In doing that, I handpicked the finest, like the thinnest, most consistently spun yarn to use in the front. So the front would be like extra nice. But in doing that, I probably should have just mixed and matched the thick and thin yarn on the front and back, because it does change your gauge too. So I have areas on the back where the stitches are going to be much tighter, and has a little bit of bulkiness here and there, because I've used the most uneven, strange bits for the back. And so something to think about if you're using hand spun, is probably just better to just mix it all together. But the front's going to look really nice, I guess. Yeah. And I I was really nervous because I'm doing this striping, so I was really nervous about, running out of the contrast color, but I know I have more than enough of this contrast yellow, because all I'm going to do is add in a couple of stripes on the sleeve here and there, and a couple of stripes on the bottom, so that everything's represented, basically, long story short. Probably have at least a few more weeks left on this, just because once I finish this, so the front is finished, and it's going to go back into this really fancy project bag I have. And then, like I said, I have maybe 2-3 more inches left on the back. I have some decisions to make about the back that I think I've already decided on. And then I'm going to wash and block the front and the back, and block them, pin them out so that they are on top of each other, lined up the way I want to seam them. And so they're blocked to not only, I'm counting stripes, but the stripes, obviously are in hand spun, so it's going to be a little fudgerific. But luckily 100% wool is very pliable and easy to manipulate. And so I'm just going to, put them on top of each other, kind of get them, to the same shape. And then seaming will be that much better, because obviously this is all stockinette, so this is all rolled up. So I definitely want to get this nice and blocked, and it's going to make seaming that much easier. And as a reminder, I did a provisional cast on for the front and the back. So once it's washed, blocked, beautifully seamed, then I'm going to pick up the bottom, knit down for the bottom ribbing. Not only knit it down for the bottom ribbing, but make sure that it's at a length that I want, because this is knit bottom up. So, there's some thought that has to go into how long you want the body. I just followed the pattern, but I'm thinking I might want to add a little bit more length and add in that green color. And then once you've seamed everything together, you have to pick up for the sleeves, and there's just some ribbing for the sleeves. And that'll be done, but it's gonna, I spent a lot of time knitting, just waiting for wool to dry. And it can take a good week for something like this, of this caliber. If you give it a nice good soak in warm water to truly get dry enough to be able to work with and seam and all that stuff. And then obviously I have to sew that collar down to the back, sew the ends of the collar together, and then I'll be nice and finished in the back. And that'll be that. And then if I have to spend more yarn for it, it's going to be a whole process, because I have to spin, then I have to ply, then wash and finish it, wait for it to dry, ball it up. And so it's definitely a celebration of slow making for fall 2024. The last thing I'm going to show you, and I'm just going to move on with my weekend, is a little check-in with my oldest work in progress, which is Kagan's Quilt. It's a pattern by Carolyn Bloom Handmade Studios. And this is a blanket pattern that has 4 large square motifs that are then sewn together. And I kind of left it to the wayside for a while, because it is at the end of the day, this is going to cover my king size bed. And so I've embraced the fact that this is going to be a while. I bought this yarn a year ago. It's Hobie's collaboration with TL Yarn Crafts, Tony Lipsy's Happy Place yarn. And I bought it a year ago when the yarn came out. We're now, I believe it was this time last year. We're in the end of October. Today's the 24th of October. I think it came out sometime October, November. Found a blanket pattern, started working on it. It's DK weight yarn. I'm working on size 8 needles, so it's going to be a nice loose gauge. And this is the 3rd motif that I'm on, and I'm about 1/3 of the way through the 3rd motif. And it's, one of those, it's knit on the bias, so it's just going to get bigger and bigger with more stitches, and then it's a square. So once it reaches maximum length, then you start doing decreases. And so this is the yellow melange, or I think it's the maize, but all of her colors have like a corresponding melange to them. So this is a yellow with the white twisted in. This is just, I think it's almond. And then I'm doing solid, and then I'll repeat this almond color. Then I'm going to do a solid red and a melange red. And this will be like my warm colored square. And yeah, I just picked it up again recently. And I was on, I think I took the pin out of it. But I'm almost done with this block. And then I think the fourth block is the biggest block, and then I'll be doing decreases. So it shouldn't take me long. It's just I don't want to get burnt out on the project, so I just try to give myself space from it. But I think I kind of treat each square like it's its own whip. And so I would like to concentrate on finishing this square. Then I might just take a little bit of break from it and then finish the fourth square. And if it bleeds into, I know it's going to take until 2025 to finish this, because as I said before, not only do I have to finish all of the squares, I'm going to have to wash, block everything, seam everything together, and there's a border that goes around the whole thing when it's done. And so I'm just kind of embracing my pace. I did have to order more of this yarn, just my I was going to be able to finagle it with the yarn I had left over, but there was going to be a lot more scrappy than I was going for, and I really wanted this to be more of a planned project, and so I decided to order more of this neutral color and add in these neutral stripes so it wasn't as chaotic as a lot of my other projects are. But once I finish this piece, I'll maybe show y'all again the other two earlier pieces I did, and then after I do this square, which is just stripes in the bias, which is super accessible and easy. The last one is chevrons, which is another easy one. The biggest beast, if y'all remember, there's one that has 16 squares that I had to seam together, and that took the most amount of time. So really I'm just kind of just chilling with this one and just working on it when I have time. And yeah, I think I'm only have a few more stripes left on this if I'm looking at this correctly. And so this will probably be, I'd probably want to finish this square before the end of the year. And I'll say that that's a job well done to do that. And then with the understanding that I definitely want to finish this blanket by the end of this cold season. And so it's just now, it's like right now we're in kind of like this false fall. One day it'll be 80 degrees. The next day it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It can still be kind of blustery and windy and fall-like. And then next thing you know, there's like a tornado, or then there's like a tropical storm or something like that. And so it's transitioning now. And then through February, it'll be, proper cold. And then March, it's going to be touch and go again into April. And so it would be nice to, before it's warm again outside, have this on my bed and be able to sleep under this. Because then if I don't, then it's going to be a whole nother summer. And then I'll tell myself, well, I'll finish it for this winter. And it'll be, winter 2025, and I'm still working on this. And it's like, it's nice to have an ongoing project, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I'm ready to move on to other things. And I have a lot of stuff going on inside my head of stuff that I want to make. And so I don't want to spend too much time on any one thing. And also these are like my size 8 5mm needles. And this is actually a pretty popular size for me to use. And so I would like to have these needles back eventually. So that's that. I'm enjoying it so far. I like the pattern. The pattern I'm completely doing off gauge my own way, but the pattern is quite adaptable, and that's why I bought it, because it has all these different motifs, and it's a blanket, so it is very forgiving with gauge. And so I could see myself using this pattern for any number of projects and combining them with other motifs, and like this square by itself could be a baby blanket for someone. I wanted to show y'all one more thing, and I'm looking around and I've forgotten it. I have Mr. Rulude's black and white socks, and that was the whole theme for today, was kind of losing a bit of mojo, if you will, with the knitting. I've been kind of in a bit of a funk lately, mood-wise. Work's been a bit stressful, life's been a bit stressful, and it's like knitting can be a stress relief, but at the same time, it does take like physical energy, mental thought. And I'm kind of like, do I feel like just knitting stockinette? But then I also want to, it's like, I feel like there's like some disturbance in the force as far as like the balance of works and product or works in progress I have. Like, I'm just like, it's like, I don't really feel like working on anything, but also I can't really think of the things that I want to work on. And also I have, stuff like this that I've been working on for a year. So it's just kind of been a weird time. But back to these socks. Once again, I think they're going to be too big. And so I need to try them on him. And the fact that I'm striping and like cutting yarn and striping and joining yarn, it's just like I'm losing a little bit of joy with them. And so I think I just need a little bit of a break from socks right now. But I did want to just show you the progress I made on them and what I'm thinking of doing with them. But I probably, after I finish recording, now that I've thought about it and remembered that I forgot them, I do need to try them on him, because like that's what happens. That's a big piece of losing my mojo. I start working on something and realizing that I'm making a mistake, and I'm like, well, maybe if I keep going, it'll get better, and it never gets better. And then next thing you know, I'm dreading pulling out certain projects because I'm just like, oh. And so usually that's a sign that I need to either rip it out or fix the mistake or retool something. I'm thinking about just casting on a whole nother pair of socks just to cleanse my palette and think through what I want to do, because it's just like, this is not working. And I'm down to 72 stitches. So my next option is do 68 stitches, I guess. And I know most people end up at like 64, 68 stitches. I'm not a huge swatcher, so I don't have like a lot of patience to like try a bunch of different things. I just want it to work. And so now I'm just ranting about my own mental state right now. So at this point, I'm gonna let y'all go. Thanks for checking in with me. How are you doing? Do you feel like you're just in a haze right now? It's like almost the end of the year. My kids are in school, and so there's tons of events and stuff. Halloween is next week. I've been working on my Halloween costume. I actually made my Halloween costume this year. I'll show it to y'all next week, maybe, or next time I see y'all. Maybe I'll show it to you if y'all are into like other crafts besides knitting. It's not that, and I didn't sew it or nothing. It's a lot of. I am the monarch of the hot glue gun. I'll put it to you that way. Maybe, if y'all are interested in that, let me know. But yeah, do you just feel totally wiped this time of year? Are you losing a little bit of your momentum? Are you just full of energy and joy for knitting? Let me know in the comments. I also have a worsted weight hat that I'm working on right now that I did not bring with me, and I'll show y'all probably when I get closer to finishing that. That's something that really does bring me joy, is just like doing like a really quick hat. Maybe I just need to do more hats right now and bang those out and like donate them or something, because I don't need any more hats right now. But yeah, let me know. I'm Rulude on Instagram. Obviously, I'm candibknittin here on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe and comment and all of that great stuff. But you can also email me, candibknittin@gmail.com. You can hit me up as Rulude on Ko-fi. And then if you know Candy B in real life, you can always just shoot me a text or whatever. We can hang out and go knitting or something. Until the next time, peace.